Welcome to the Sheila Mack Show, reality at its finest. Here we have real people sharing real stories and actionable steps to help you reinvent, rebuild, and reboot your life on your terms. I'm your host, Sheila Mack, and today we have special guest Kyle Lipton. He meets at the intersection of comedy and consciousness. His sense of humor, mixed with his transformational abilities and depth, makes for an epic experience to attend, whether it's a speech, a comedy, an act, or a private session. He's called the Clairvoyant Comedian and thinks it's time we all enlighten up and realize transformation doesn't have to be so serious. His purpose is to reveal the cosmic joke. All right, welcome to the show, Kyle.
Oh, thank you. I'm so glad to be with you.
Yes, now this show is based on my new book, Bootstraps and Bra Straps, the formula to go from rock bottom back into action in any situation. And when I wrote it, it was before this year's situations. So it showed up right on time. We have some serious situations and we need comedy and consciousness in our life, especially this year. So I would love to hear about your reboot in life, your time in life. You've gone through a tough situation and got back on track to inspire the audience and to let them know about you.
Yeah. First of all, it's great to be here. I feel like I have so many moments like that where you just go on this whole journey and then you kind of rise like the phoenix from the ashes. But I grew up in Los Angeles, and comedy has kind of always been one of my cornerstones. Like, I won class clown in high school, but some people say, you develop keen observation skills from going through a lot of things and going through a lot of trauma. And for me, I started out, had a family with a lot of love, not a lot of money. We've been in homeless shelters. I've had my fair share when it comes to that. I have a sister with special needs, so I've kind of been bred for, compassion, and also seeing a certain side of humanity that I think a lot of people don't see. And oh my goodness, there's so many things I can say. I don't even know where to start. So many journeys, whether that's from getting into a relationship, getting out of a relationship, almost getting married, to speaking around the world, to seeing clients, to channeling, to talking to extraterrestrial beings, to exploring sexuality, to exploring, I don't even know where to start. But one story I guess I could share is that I would say in my life I've tapped into a lot of, how would I explain it? Revealing more and more of the gifts that I have, revealing more and more of some of these more woo-woo magical gifts that a lot of people take for granted and a lot of people kind of dismiss, especially in the personal development community. There's kind of a divide between, here's the personal development people, here are the spiritual people, here's the practical people, and here's the more mystical woo-woo people. And I like to be at the cornerstone of that. And this year definitely has been a year of coming out of the spiritual closet and sharing, my psychic gifts and my channeling gifts, and doing that more on live streams and giving people sessions. And it's been, one of my best friends said this, and it really rung home with me, which was, we can't make magic real unless we talk about it like it's real. We can't make magic normal unless we speak about some of these more mystical things like they're normal. Yeah, I probably gave you so many random roundabouts in that answer, but it's been such a journey. But this year for sure has been the year of really revealing myself more and more, and my gifts, and standing in that.
Yes. So I hear a magical noise. Is there something in your room that's happening?
No, I don't think it's me. I heard it after I started talking.
What it's coming from? Maybe it was my side. It was some kind of magic showing up. As we speak of magic, it shows up, because now it's kind of calmed down a little bit. Whatever that was interesting. Yes. And one of the things that I've noticed, I too was homeless at a young age and went through lots of up and downs. And for me, because I didn't have a family at all really helping out, I connected a lot more because it was like I needed to be guided to really be connected and listen and be able to kind of be empathic and know, oh, is that person safe or not? And you kind of start to read and know and be connected with that guidance, that inner guidance that I think we all have. And sometimes I guess they forgot to tell me to put it to sleep. I mean, it's just, I'm very guided and very intuitive also. And it's interesting because now they have finally figured out scientifically, they have scientific proof about a lot of this. Like you just write love on a bottle of water, and in the other bottle you write hate, and you can look at the different molecular structure just by the different words and energy that's placed on water. Or people can all do a meditation on one side of the world and it'll change the structure of water all the way on the other side of the planet, and it's just the energy being sent out. And yet they have scientific proof now that this stuff is not as woo-woo and out there as we believed it once was. I think people might be afraid to speak of it. A mother's intuition. Whoa, I mean, us moms, we have some intuition. I have a knowing something's not right. And so it's one of those things that I think is such a gift to pick up, especially during our universal pause as we're rebuilding and reorganizing our world to be more connected and know what matters most in that consciousness part.
Yes.
And have some fun.
Yes.
While you're at it.
Yeah. One of the shifts for me has been really realizing what's the other option than being guided. And when I realized that the most important tool or guidance that I have and direction that I have is connection to my intuition. I booked tickets across the world in like 2 days, or, just done so many things that from a logical perspective, one might think is silly, extra risky, but it's provided me, one, just such a deep trust in myself and such a deep trust in my knowing, but two, the most amazing circumstances as well. Like I'll give an example of a story. I remember I had $300 on a credit card and something just told me I need to book a ticket to Germany. I was going to go visit someone, but I wasn't going to go visit them till later. And I found a $180 ticket from LA to Berlin, which first of all is just the real deal. Second of all, that left me with $120, no income coming in, no plan, there was no payment scheduled for Sunday type deal. It was the most incredible circumstances happened. I booked a client the next day. I made more money in my business than I ever did. And I ended up traveling the world for 3 months, all on that one decision. And just the amount, I remember I was going from Germany to London and I had even less money. And I'm sitting there at the border and I'm writing on my little affirmation journal. I exude luxury and abundance with every step and breath I take. And I'm sitting there writing this and ingraining it in. And long story short, a friend of mine who lived in California, who I barely knew, ended up being in London, and I'm eating 5-star meals with him the next day. Wow. And just seeing the power of what trust does, and where our intuition and synchronicity already has a plan before our logical mind steps in. And the more that we just build that muscle, even if it's just, all right, I'm going to take Sunday off and I'm going to listen to whatever my guidance is. Maybe it'll tell me to go to the grocery store. I don't know why it's telling me to go to the grocery store. Maybe it'll tell me to go to the cereal aisle. I don't know why I'm going to the cereal aisle. Then you bump into someone who is crying, and then you have a conversation with them, and it ends up being one of the most life-changing conversations. And you never know what kind of divine assignments are already waiting for you, but trust that the map is laid out. Just having your intuition and having that connection to what your next step is, which would be, for example, go to the grocery store. I don't know why, but I'm feeling called to go. And in that, I can't imagine another way to live. I can't imagine not living through trusting and through building that trust in your intuition and your inner knowing, like you said.
Yes. You know, I've had so many of those experiences that it's kind of my normal as well.
Yeah.
You know, I go to a grocery store. Where you said grocery store, I went to a grocery store once, and then I was like, I think I'm going to get something at Starbucks. I had quit coffee, and I was actually going to just get like these little egg bites or something, and water. And I go and I run into this lady, and she walked in actually, and she was acting not right. She was high as a kite, like high as a kite, like tripping. Okay.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
they kicked her out. And I was like, okay. And she somehow is drawn to me. And I'm like, all right, then. And something came to me, and I said, do you like ice cream? And there was a 31 flavors right next door to Starbucks. And she said, I love ice cream. I mean, she's still like out, like she's walking in front of cars and not seeing them. And I mean, she's like not here. And I'm like, I'm going to get you ice cream because I'm going to get ice cream. And I'm like trying to diet. So I was not really going to get ice cream for myself, but I was like, I'm just trying to work with this lady because she can kind of talk to her, but then she's gone. I get her, and she liked mint chocolate chip. So I get her mint chocolate chip. And she was sitting next to my car of all places. And she's eating the ice cream, and she pulls her keys out and she says, I'm going to go now. She was going to get in that car. It was right when school was letting out nearby and everything else. She would have, who knows what. And I said, wow, if I did not listen, I don't know what would have happened to the lady. I did take her keys. I said, oh, let me borrow your keys and I'll go help you and I'll put your things away. And I put them somewhere she couldn't find them. And I did call the police and get her some help and said, hey, she cannot drive until she's not, she's way under the influence. She could barely walk the right way, and it was listening. And then I was like, okay, I know I'm going to be late for my next appointment, but I needed to be here. Do you know, I get on the freeway, everything's at a halt. I missed a big accident. Holy smoke. So if I had to go with my heart and my feeling, I would have never believed that lady was on drugs. I mean, I knew she was on drugs, but driving. Like, I would have never thought, okay, she's probably got a car somewhere and she's going to just drive off and who knows what she's going to hit. But there was something that just felt like I have to be involved. And usually, I don't get involved with every person that's like out of it. But that was a very guided situation. And it blessed me as well as her.
100%. Just to segue off that, one of the things that's been great for me in developing my intuitive abilities has been having moments like that and just trusting. And that's how, I've never really been one to study alien. I've never been the person to like logically go to the books or watch the YouTube videos about aliens or some of these things. But I remember I was in a float tank, one of those sensory deprivation chambers.
Yes.
And the name, the Pleiadians, came to me and I was like, what? And I had heard it briefly somewhere. And then that was a connection I consciously started building. And then I went to New York when I moved there, and it was like life was drawing out. I noticed if you really pay attention, you'll notice life will draw out certain qualities in you. So I go to an event and people start asking me about channeling just based on the places I go. And I'm like, then another person who runs a big YouTube channel wanted to have me at his event for channeling. And I'm like, I didn't even really promote it, but now it's just kind of getting drawn out of me. And same with intuition. It's like, I might have a knowing. For example, I remember a few years ago, I saw my friend's soul being strangled, and I just saw a very like clairvoyant vision of it. And exactly what I'm going through. Or I was at a gathering, I tell a woman something's going on with her liver, and she's like, you're right, there's something going on there. Or, I have so many stories like that, but it's about trusting that first voice that's like, oh my gosh, this is going to be embarrassing. This is going to be awkward. This is going to be weird. And I've had moments where I'll say something and it doesn't even resonate with the person. But then 2 months later, they're like, oh yeah, I did move to Costa Rica.
Yes.
And it's developing that kind of, I guess, internal fortitude where you're just so solid in knowing that you can trust whatever comes through, which makes life just so much easier, because then you're not spent second guessing yourself or stuck in logic or stuck in time. And I fear is one of the things that creates time. When I'm afraid to, let's say, speak on a stage, it might take me 2 years to get to that one moment, like Tony Robbins talks about, destiny is in your decisions. It might take 2 years to get to the moment where I just decide to go on stage or share my gift or go on live stream. Right. But they can all be diminished in one moment of just saying, I'm going to trust this intuition. I'm going to turn on the camera. And that to me is exciting, to realize how much time are we dwelling in that could be collapsed right now, just for certain actions or conversations. And like, where are you putting things off? Where are you putting conversations off? Where are you putting your destiny off, in a sense?
So true. And I think that there's something about unlearning.
Yes.
We have been taught, you have a feeling, or you feel like saying what comes to mind, and 99.9% of the time it is spot on. Then there's the other times where we're like, oh, we put it in our mind, and we go out of the heart and out of the consciousness part, and we say, oh, that doesn't make sense. I'm not going to listen to that guidance, or that don't go down that street, or no, today you make sure that back door is locked, or whatever it is. When you listen to that, it's like 99.9% right. But we learn to question our inner knowingness and our guidance, because we've been taught that it has to make this scientific sense of what everybody else is saying. Like, oh no, you can't just like hop on a plane and go to another country with like a few $100. That's not going to work. That's somebody lovingly protecting you in the mind space, but they're not in the heart space. They're not in the connected space. And that's, I met a monk from India with a group of incredible people at a small house. It was a very small meeting, and he spoke for 2 or 3 days, and there were people there that make a lot of money. They're very successful, but they've never, ever once had these spiritual connected. They're not attached. They have them, but they've disassociated with them. And they're like, I would love to have a vision or experience, or connect to that. They would pay millions to just have what some of us have not turned off. They've always had it too. They just turned the volume down so much they don't hear it anymore.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's interesting too, what you said is we question. It's funny that we question the most solid thing. Right? We're questioning the thing that's most solid. Our deepest inner knowing is the thing that we question, which actually, if we listen to it, would lead us to a lot more clarity. And sometimes I get clients that are confused. Like they come for a channeling or a psychic reading, and they're like, I want clarity. And one thing that one of my mentors taught me was clarity begets clarity. So don't try and find where to be clear sometimes. Focus on what's already clear. For example, you might get the intuitive hit, I need to have a conversation with my mom. And then you have this whole spiel inside your mind where you're like, oh, we talk about what's the thing to do. And you're trying to find clarity on the big picture, but life is saying, just take that next step.
Right.
So the invitation would be to act on what's already clear, which will put you in the frequency and the feeling of clarity, which would then put you in resonance, kind of like a field of attraction, to attract more clear things. Like if you've ever had the feeling of being unsure of yourself, or like second guessing, you notice how many like second guessing activities you attract in your life, where your friends like, you want to make plans? And you're like, yeah, that could be cool. And then they cancel on the plan. Or they're unsure, or you meet another person who's unsure, or you get a client that comes to you and they're like, let me think about it. I'm unsure. Not realizing that whole time they're reflecting your inner world. Or like, for example, science, how it's been continually disproven, or proven later rather, where they're just now discovering certain technologies. And rather than wait for science, I'd rather be ahead of the curve and then have science figure that out. I remember when I was in London, I had my girlfriend at the time ask if I wanted to book my ticket to Indonesia. And I didn't have all the money, but something in me told me to just decide. And like, I can't even make it up. It gives me chills. I checked my phone right after that call, and I had about 4 messages from this guy who said I came up in his medium reading and I was to help him with emotional stuff. Right. And that same day we decided to book the ticket was the day he became a client of mine. And it's, you can't make it up, and you can't, I know you have these same experiences where life is just waiting for you to say yes and trust. And, worst comes to worst, you take a leap and then you don't like it and you just go back to living a super logical, mind-dominated, mind-oriented life. But no one would want to do that if they really trusted.
And I think that this year, with the universal pause, with the pandemic, we have actually had a situation where we've had to course correct. And sometimes somebody's lost a job, but really they found that their talent, their truth, and who they really are, their essence shows up, and they're actually finally earning money doing what they love. And they're like, I'm not going back to that job. Nope, I'm good now. Now they're home. They have found their energetic home, and it's not about ego or about proving to others. It's just because that's like their happy place. That's what they were destined or designed to do. But they were listening to all no, you need to work this job and you need to do it this way because you got to pay the bills and you got to follow what you're taught instead of what you know. And they've always had a knowingness about, I'm supposed to be whatever or do this or that. They just had the fear. So what did the universe do? Okay, I'm going to give you a little shove now. And now you get to really do it. And they're finding their happiness. Yes.
And it's like, there's a Native American proverb, and they say, hear the whispers before you have to hear the screams. Mm-hmm. And, it's like people in a relationship, they'll say, oh, that just came out of nowhere. That blow up, that explosion just came out of nowhere. But if we were to be really aware and just look at all the ways in which you felt anger or resentment, and then you pushed it to the side, or you wanted to say something to them, but you pushed it to the side. And in those moments, they compound and the energy compresses, and then it needs to express at some point, kind of what you said about the 2020 lockdown. They have these artistic visions, but since they haven't been still enough or quiet enough or aware enough, the universe is like, here you go. Here's your opportunity to get shoved a little bit. Excuse me. And it's just being aware of and almost meticulous in the little moments, so that you don't have to have so many big wake up calls from the universe being like, hey, it's time to get your stuff together. It's time to handle yourself. And I found in my own life that gives me a lot more grace, rather than the universe having to just smack me again and again and again until I listen, because at some point that's the only way to go anyways.
Yes, that will happen. Let me promise you that will happen. You will keep running into the same problems, the same situations, the same not aligned relationships, not because the other person is better or worse. It's just not aligned with who you are. And so when you're able to step up and step into who you really are, then we're forced to put on masks right now in many places. Yeah. But it's like, because we have been masking so much that it's like, hey, you know what? I'm going to make you wear a mask until you take the other mask off.
And it's like, it's literally the physical manifestation of what we've been doing.
Yes. Isn't that interesting?
It's like, oh, you don't see you've been wearing a mask? I'm physically going to put a real mask on you to see that there's actually a mask going on. And, I was going to post this on Facebook, but I felt like a little controversial, so I haven't posted it yet. But if people cared enough, because there's the maskers, the anti-maskers, and there's like that whole community. And then you go on Facebook, people are arguing about Trump and Biden, and it's just like it's a whole show. But the thing that I was going to say, if people cared enough or put as much effort into removing the metaphorical, metaphysical mask they're wearing as they are some little piece of cotton on their face, we would ascend and move a lot faster as a society. Because, you know, someone's like, I don't want to wear this muzzle on my face. And, you know, I'm not demeaning that, or I'm not really stating a viewpoint on that, but I'm saying if you cared more about the energetic mask you've been wearing, where you've not been showing up truly and authentically, just imagine how far we would go. And as a collective, as a unit, what could be changed? Because really, and there's another good perspective, and I feel like a freedom fighter right now or something, but you know, if the government said for us to pay taxes, but all of us in the US just said no, what would happen? And
all right, everyone, let's do this. Okay, no.
All right, everyone, don't pay your taxes. No.
That's right.
But I'm saying that to really speak to like the power of what we could do as a unit. If everyone removed their masks, what kind of ripple would that be as a society? I mean, the energetic masks, whatever you believe about the physical mask is your own biz.
Exactly. The energetic masks that we're in. And how are you going to ever find the right job or whatever you're going to do, whether you run your own business, your purpose, if you're pretending to be what your mom or your dad or some uncle so-and-so told you had to be successful?
Yeah.
How are you going to find your aligned friend group if you're pretending to try to fit in with some people that you may love them, but they're not your people, they're not your tribe, because they're not the same energy that you really are. So if you're masking it and you're pretending and trying to fit in a place that doesn't feel right, and it doesn't even feel, you feel it when you're going to go, I'm going to go do that, and I don't even want to do that. I would prefer to go do whatever, but you're in this group. That's going to make a difference, because as you show up as who you are, your friends will be like, oh, wow, I love you even more because you're incredible. This is, I didn't even know you were like that, because you were hiding it. You were masking it. 100%. And relationships. How about relationships? How are you going to find that true love, that somebody that can really align with you? If you go on a date and you say everything they want to hear, and it's totally nothing that's real. It's you know, baloney. It's fake, because you're trying to please them. You're not going to want to please somebody in wearing a mask for the rest of your life. That's not going to work out.
Yeah. And like, here's the cosmic joke. And this is one of the things that's helped me, and what I'm here to help people with, is to show you that you'll never actually get what you want from doing what you're doing. So for example, I'm going to fit in so I can be liked. So here's what's not effective about that. One, you don't like yourself in that moment.
Yes.
Because you're not being yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And then because you don't like yourself, you're going to attract situations where you're not liked, or where you have to put a mask on to be liked, but you don't even feel liked because you're not feeling like you like yourself anyways. Right. So you'll be fitting in the circumstance and be like, oh, I don't even like myself right now. I'm drained every time I see these people, because here goes the puppet show, and here's me being whatever they want me to be. And then on the flip side, it's like, I would much rather feel like I like myself than be in a group where they don't like me for who I am, because then at least that's a PSA that's like, oh, great. Now that's just not my group. But now at least I feel the self-worth inside of myself to know that I'm deserving of a group like that, or I'm deserving of people who are, you know, it's like fighting for peace. You can't fight for peace. The energetics of that don't make any sense, because you're in pieces trying to make peace. Yeah. You're saying, we need to do this. We need to, you know, that's like politics, divide and conquer. Mm-hmm. So you can see everyone's so polarized right now, no matter what your viewpoint is. But it's like, I hate this Trump supporter, but I'm voting for love. And it's like, that makes no sense, because it's still regardless of your political beliefs. I'm speaking more to the energy. It's like, if I can't sit with someone who has the exact opposite beliefs as me and love them, then that's where my spiritual evolution is. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I feel this is what comes to me is going through homelessness and going through those different situations you had growing up, you got to see people and connect with people in different phases of life, walking through different shoes. So there's a compassion that comes and a connection that comes, a oneness almost, where you're like, it doesn't matter if they've got billions or they've got nothing, because it's who are they, and in my book, who are you being in all you're doing? How are you showing up? And you could see there could be somebody homeless that shows up in the most beautiful, incredible way, and then somebody super rich that's showing up in an ugly way. And so it's the beingness that matters, and you connect to that versus all that other, I don't know, financial stuff or status or whatever you want to, everybody's got their little categories they place people in, instead of saying, oh, but on a soul level, that's a whole different game.
I remember I was in New York maybe 4 or 5 months ago, and I was just in my place. I was living at 146th Street at the time. It'll make sense why I'm saying the number. But I had this intuitive hit, go to 96th Street in the Upper West Side of New York. I was like, I don't know why, I don't need anything, but I left the house immediately. And I'm walking, and I'm on like 92nd Street at this point, making a right, and this homeless guy, I see him out of the corner of my eye, and my first like millisecond instinct is kind of like, he's going to ask me for money. Like, let me, and my guards rose just a little bit. I'm usually like really generous about that, but something in that moment was like, I don't know, my guards went up. And I end up just slowing down, connecting with this guy, and he was like, nice jacket, man. I'm like, thanks. He's like, you a motorcycle? I was wearing a leather jacket. He was like, where's your bike? I was like, oh, no, I don't have my bike, but my dad used to be a bike rider. And he basically had this moment. I could feel just like the spirit in this whole situation with, he was like, your dad's really proud of you, and he's wants you to know like everything's all right. Stop worrying, be happy. And my dad had just died like 2 months before.
Oh, wow.
And it was like, what the? And he never asked me for a dime. And it was just that moment of, like you said, it's not about the person's financial status. It's about their spirit. This person did nothing but give to me in that moment. And it goes to show that impact has nothing to do with financial status.
Exactly.
Yeah. And
so good.
You can shape the world and do things right now that will make a huge ripple, just like what happened in that moment.
Something happened. We're back. Yes. Oh, wow. That was some interesting energy that came through.
Yeah, I don't know what
that was just like a whole reset. We're talking about rebuilding, rebooting your life, and the computer just did a reboot on its own. We shifted our energy right here, right now. Maybe somebody listening. That is incredible.
We're getting quantum out here.
Yes, you never know what just happened, really. Was it 10 years that went by?
That's right.
So, yes, so that brings us to the comedy part. I want to hear some of the comedy and how you're connecting consciousness and comedy.
Yeah. So I initially, one of my mentors, so I've been funny my whole life, shameless plug, but I started doing these little skits on social media, and I put out this first skit, and it was basically like coaches, life coaches on, and you know, if you're in this world, life coaches will do this thing sometimes called the discovery call, where it's a 30-minute call where we discover each other. And basically the way I portrayed it was like, it's a glorified sales call. And I'm not saying they're all like this, but it was a funny poke at it. You know, and the person gets on the call and he's like, do you want to live your best life ever? Yes or yes. And just like all these like NLP sales tactics, I just want the best for you. Now, is that going to be Visa or MasterCard?
Right.
And, oh, you don't have the money? Do you have a credit card? Does your kid really need their stroller? or do you need this good life? And I just kind of posted it on a whim. It was fun to create, and it got like, I don't know, 10,000 views. But it was one of those moments where so many people in the comments reflected back to me like, this is your genius. We want more of this.
Mm-hmm.
Fueled the whole poking fun at the spiritual world. Like, there's another one that I did on relationships where it was like spiritual relationships. And it's this guy and this girl, and he's like, I'm ready to take things to the next level. And just like, oh, I'm so ready. And he's like, I want you to be in an open relationship with me. And it's just like this whole ploy on open relationships and some of the ways that we bypass and just the spiritual language, or like the urban shaman who like watches 5 Alan Watts videos and tries to give everyone sacred medicine in his grandmother's basement. And you're just like, and I think part of my own childhood trauma led me, probably like you, to just be very observant. And I also just, I love bringing comedy into things. And I think the world right now is craving to not be so serious about personal development. Yes. If my end goal is to feel more expressed and feel more fun, I'm not going to get there by doing 4 hours of serious work in my journal every day. And I think the world wants not only education, but entertainment. We want to be entertained. We want to be awakened to a new possibility, which is what the comedy videos do and what my comedy does. Because I love depth, and I don't like to ever forgo that. Right. But we don't need to take it all serious and be so rigid about things. Like if you go to a spiritual event and someone's, you're like, all right, I'm going to go talk to my other friend. They're like, wow. And all right, well, I'm going to go talk to my friend now. See ya. And just some of these ways that are, can be limiting. And I just think it's fun to poke fun at it all, so we can see different perspectives. When we're all rigid and, wound up, we can't really see outside of that limited scope of reality. And I think comedy is a good way to open us up.
That is so true. And it's really funny because I saw that first video.
Oh yeah.
And that's where I was like, I know we've been friends for a long time. We met at the Tony groups or Tony Robbins events or something like that. But I didn't really know you. And then you showed up without your mask and did your comedy. Yeah. And I was like, oh my gosh, when is he going to do this next skit? Because this is making me laugh. I'm going through XYZ and all these things. I mean, my house burned down in 2017 and all these things happened. I'm rebuilding my life. And then I see your comedy and it's like, I'm just laughing and I'm showing my daughter or whoever, one of my kids that was home, look at this. This is so funny. Look at it. He's great. And that's when I was like, okay, let's talk. And we started talking and you showed me all about what you're doing. And I was like, wow, this is incredible. And that, to me, that just speaks to when you're showing up and you're sharing your truth and your energy and your passion, it's attractive to everybody. You know what I'm saying? It's beautiful. And I really love those fun skits you do. They're just freedom. People need that more than ever this year. We need to laugh. We need to breathe a little bit.
Yeah. First of all, thank you. And second of all, it's important to not take this so seriously. And so many, that was kind of a factor, comedy just comes so natural to me. So it was kind of weird in the sense that sometimes we disregard our own talents and we disregard the things that come.
Or two.
There we go.
2, 1.
I don't know what's happening right now.
That's awesome. That happens once in a while.
So, sometimes we disregard what comes most natural to us, like comedy, and we don't even think about it. And then you realize that there's so much passion and creativity and things that are possible when you're just doing what comes most natural, and that's the most magnetic. And that's where I think work doesn't feel like work. It feels like play. It feels like fun. It feels just like an extension of who you are. And, you know, in this season of life, that's really what I want. I want everything I do to just feel like an extension of who I am. And yeah, there's so much more comedy to come. It's just feels like just the beginning.
Again, we are back. Oh my gosh.
I have no clue.
It has not happened. This is the first that this has happened.
I guess we can celebrate it.
Yes, and you know, there's something to that. It's part of the lesson of rebooting is sometimes we're going to have a curveball. We're going to have a COVID or some interesting thing is going to show up, and we can decide how we're going to show up through it. Is it going to bother us, or are we going to just keep moving forward? How are we going to react is going to make all the difference.
Yeah. I can't imagine I'm going to wake up and have a nightmare about this slight pause in our interview. Oh my God, it paused for 2 minutes.
And maybe that was we needed a pause to get into our consciousness and to listen more. Yes, something like that. So you have found a way to connect the spirituality, the consciousness with the comedy. And I think that's incredible. I'd love to hear more about how you're doing that.
Mostly through the skits that I do that we just talked about, but also I really bring it in everything that I do. So I do a lot of these live streams where I do channeling, like psychic readings and channeling where people will ask a question. But, you know, I like to poke fun. I like to have fun while I'm doing it because it feels like an extension of who I am. You know, someone's like, oh my God, I need an answer. Oh my gosh, it's the most important thing ever. And they come with this energy of just seriousness. And it's like, oh my God, I need to give you the answer or else everything's gonna, you know, fall out of place. And just being silly, like not taking it seriously. And I think that's part of the reason why, you know, people are drawn to me. They want to take things less seriously. And I think the path to doing your most serious work is in taking things less seriously, realizing, okay, great. This is just a blank script and I'm here to write it. And I can erase it. I can write again. I can erase it. I can write again. But it doesn't mean it's like this, oh my God, and I said this word and it rippled out into history forever and I can never take it back and life is just going to be so hard. And it's like the more seriousness we have with an issue, the more density we have. And I'll share this because I feel like it relates. One of my biggest core emotions that I've felt that one could say is disempowering or uncomfortable has been guilt. This sense of guilt, this sense of I've done something wrong, I need to rectify it. And what came to me was just when we, for example, let's say I have a conversation with someone and I say something and they take it the wrong way. And then I feel bad and I feel like I need to correct myself rather than just realizing like, no, they spun it however they spun it.
Right.
But when we're so serious, like, oh my God, I can't sleep at night until I rectify this. And meanwhile, they're not thinking about it anymore. And you're just like, did they take it this way? Oh my goodness. What if I don't need to? And what I've noticed is that if I just let go, and I broke my leg before, my leg. And what happened is when it was in the cast, they got atrophied.
Oh, wow.
The same thing with guilt. We have to atrophy our guilt. So when we're serious, like when I need to correct myself, I need to do it this way, we add more density to something. what makes it harder to get out of it. We dig ourselves a hole. But when we take things lightly, we're just, we're flowing with it. Oh my goodness, they took it this way. I didn't mean it that way. Let me just let it go.
Right.
There's nothing for me to correct here. And then that muscle of guilt, or, you could apply it to anger. You could apply it to so many different things. That muscle can atrophy. And that's different than repressing it, but it's also not buying into the belief. I need to rectify my guilt so that I could be worthy, because we've already realized you are worthy. There's nothing you could do to prove your worth. There's nothing I can do to get love, because I am love.
Mm-hmm.
And when you realize that, it's like, what am I actually trying to do underneath my actions? Why do I feel I need to be so serious? Why do I feel like I can't just be a child?
Yeah.
We're all adults wanting to be children again.
Mm-hmm.
And taking things less seriously, I feel like, is step number one.
I love that. It's like 2020 hindsight, right? This is 2020. Now we can say, hey, wait a minute. You know what? Why did I even care about that? What we were worried about a year ago and what we're dealing with now, and what we're rebuilding and everything, but what we've had to go through this year, that stuff was like, that was our problem. Okay. We were concerned about traffic, and we had jobs to go to.
Right.
We got to go to the gym and hug people and see people and go have dinner out and have all these freedoms that now we've some of them have been taken away for a certain time. And now, of course, we're finally getting back out there. But that is like, oh, what really matters most?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of the things that, and just looking at it, just, the world's on timeout. God, spirit, source was like, y'all need to chill. Y'all need to just go to your rooms and think about stuff for a little while. Or just, I don't know, there's just certain things I find ridiculous. Mm-hmm. Like, and I don't even mean it, no matter what your beliefs are, but just the humor of, like, there's a guy in his car somewhere with a mask, just by himself.
Yes.
He's on a 4-hour road trip with just this piece of on his face. Or, you go to a restaurant, everyone's wearing a mask before they sit down, and you're like, now you may take the mask off. It's like, what did that do? And just these moments of looking at things, it's just humans are so interesting to me. And I find myself to be interesting sometimes when we get into fear and these beliefs, how our mind warps and how neurotic we get about things. And it's so strange.
It is interesting because people, they show up. Dr. Wayne Dyer would say that if an orange, you get orange juice. If you squeeze an apple, you're going to get apple juice. That kind of thing. It's what's inside. And we have been squeezed with stress and chaos. And so what's truly inside of us is coming out. And sometimes it's not so pretty. And it's like, whoa, where did that person, never saw that person get so angry or upset or whatever, because they're fear, and that's coming out. And it's 100% who they are all the time. But it's like, that's the part that the muscle, the resilience they need to work on and build. So that's like, go to your room and practice figuring this out so that when you get out again, you get to play better in this world.
I feel like
on purpose. Yes.
We're like a smoothie with peanut butter, chips, orange juice, milk, garlic, pasta, all blended up in one smoothie. And that's probably the closest thing I could say to what's being squeezed out of the world.
Right. It is so interesting. And there's nothing more important than having fun, whether you're home and you've got your kids home and you're dealing with that situation, and you're in survival yourself, because now you've got to do 2 jobs instead of 1 from home or whatever, and the kids are being homeschooled. Don't forget to step back from all that. One day without school is not going to make a difference. Just like we had a couple positive, it doesn't make a difference in the message, in the learning. Make sure to have some fun and play and breathe. And take the mask off, the other mask, and just show your children how you're going to show up in this world. I think that's we're coming to the political season in the United States, and everybody's going to vote for something. And vote, yes, vote. but also vote for what matters most in your life. Give time for pause, for family, for friends, for community, and laughter.
Yeah. You nailed it. I can't think of anything that's more important than just taking time to discover what's important to you and realize most of the things you're worried about aren't going to matter. And this too shall pass. And
Yes.
no matter what you're going through, I think so far, if you're listening to this, you've made it through 100% of everything you've ever been through, or you wouldn't be here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I love that. And we are coming to the end of our interview time, but I would love to have you share how people can connect with you, maybe to get a reading or learn more about your comedy and what you're doing.
So you can follow me on Instagram at Kyle Lipton, KYLELIPTON. And then you can follow me on Facebook. It's facebook.com/Kyle.Lipton and then the number 7. I do a lot of my content on social media. Oh, and YouTube, Kyle Lipton. I do a lot of my content and videos, whether that's, I do these live streams where people can come in and ask questions and get answers to their question through like psychic readings and channelings, but also equally, you might see another video the next day of me talking about spiritual people at conferences and a comedy skit, all in the same breath. So yeah, you can check that there on my social media. And yeah, you're welcome to send me a message and let me know you came from here, and would love to connect with y'all.
All right. Okay, we will be back after this break. Thank you for being on the show, Kyle.
Thanks for having me.